I grew up in a time when you really didn't have creative writing. I mean, I actually made a teacher once, even in college, stand up in front of everybody and explain why she gave me a C in a course. And hundreds of people, I thought I'd get back at her. She's actually my friend, but she gave me a C in a course. And she got up and she said, those of you who know Paula know that if she likes what she's doing, she does it and she gets an A. If she doesn't like it, she doesn't do it and she gets an F. A's and F's, they averaged out to a C. She earned that one. So that the writing for me was not creative writing. It was things like term papers, which I hated. I always wrote the outline after the paper, which was always a problem because they looked at it first. And I would write. I try writing the stupid outline first, and it never stayed the same. And then you'd always get into trouble for that. I never understood that because those of you who have written a great deal, well, all of you know that when you set out to write and you think you're writing about one thing, it takes its own life. It becomes something different. And some people do outline, and some people do stick to those outlines. And if they can do it, that's fine. It's not something I can do. I wrote all through high school. I had a column in the local town paper, but it was nonfiction. I wrote about things that were going on. And then when I went to college, I wrote for the humor magazine. My voice has always had humor. That's how I survive. That's what I like. I mean, sometimes I think, somebody once said that even if people are boring, I find them interesting because I can't believe they're that boring. And I have to keep checking on it. And it's really very true. And I can't believe that people don't have a sense of humor. But some really don't. I find that appalling. And granted, not everybody, those of you who have heard me before know that my favorite joke is, what's the difference between snot and broccoli? Little kids don't like broccoli. Anyway, so I don't expect everybody to find that funny, although I do think you're a little bit perverted if you don't, but I do think not being able to look at the world from a certain perspective and find humor in it is a real lack, and you have to work on that. I had car accidents in 1970. It was a difficult year for me. I was stopped at a stop sign. A police car hit me from behind, knocked me into an intersection. I got a whiplash. It was a real whiplash. And 6 days later, on the way to the doctor to check it out because it hurt, and I'm a whiner, oh, it hurts. I don't. So finally, my mother took me to the doctor to check it out, and we were hit head-on collision by a drunk driver. And I forgot how to read and write as a result of that car accident. And I was an English teacher, so it was scary because it was hard to go back into a classroom not being able to read and write. I mean, people do it, but usually they're teaching gym or they're principals. I'm sorry. Thank God I've got another job to fall back on and I don't have to go back into teaching. Those of you who are teachers are my heroes. It's the hardest job ever. And I believe that. You're really my heroes, good teachers who stay in teaching. Anyway, I had to quit teaching, and it became a real thing for me that I wanted to become a writer. And I'll finish with this part because some of you have heard this. That was the year everything went wrong. I cut the cornea of my eye with a contact lens, fell down the steps because I have a trick knee and threw myself into the wall and knocked my shoulder out of socket. Got hit by a drunk and a cop and thought if I wanted to be a writer, I better do it before I got run over by a truck. And so I wrote. And when I was thinking about talking about the book that I wrote first, I realized that I had to write in first person. There was no question to me that it had to be that kind of immediate. Because, and I don't know if I can say this quite right, I write so closely out of who I am in a way, and my characters are not me, but out of who I am, that I could no longer have written my first book as an adult. I had no choice. I had to write as Marcy. I was really both characters. I was the child in that book. I was the teacher who got suspended for not saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't get suspended, but I did have problems politically at that point. It was the 60s, But it was a stand I had taken. And so when the time came to write, I thought about it, I felt really out of control. Once you've been hit by a drunk and a cop in the same week, you don't feel in control in the same way. And so my choice was to go back to a time when I felt out of control when I was a child, and that was the voice I used. And it took a long time to get Marcy's voice. In some ways, it was very easy. The book, I actually couldn't find. I forgot to bring a copy, and they're sold out. So the book opens with, I hate my father, I hate school, I hate being fat. My name is Marcy Lewis. That's pretty close to it. And that was immediate, but that voice didn't come until I'd been writing the book for a year and a half. And that's what you have to realize too, is you don't panic if you don't have the voice of your character immediately. I loved the workshop I did yesterday. Not because I did it, but I loved it because you guys worked hard. And you, I don't know how some of you have come back and told me, but it was a chance for you to look at your own voice and develop. Now, if you, those of you in that workshop who found certain things that you could write from, know that if you're still working on those characters in 6 months, or any of you who are working on characters, the voice is going to change more and more as you know your character.